Hello and welcome to my speech. In preparation for this speech, I began to look back on my career as a ballerina and what had inspired me to pursue ballet lessons. The moment that comes to mind was when I was 3 to 4 years old and my family and I had seen the Nutcracker Ballet. I had loved the costumes, the music, and how the dancers seemed to glide across the stage, and I knew that I wanted to become a part of that world. From elementary school to high school, I had been in many ballet recitals. My favorite performance was my last time on stage when I was in high school. We had performed the Nutcracker, the ballet that started it all for me. Now, I did not have any parts in this ballet, as I was a party guest for most of it, but it was still a memorable experience. This experience had shown me the truth of what happens backstage. Time that I thought dancers had with changing into their costumes and getting to the right place, it turns out that they did not have a lot of time at all. Everyone was running back and forth backstage and hurriedly trying to change out of their costumes. It was stressful and chaotic, but I had enjoyed every second of it. Sharing this experience shows what life backstage is really like. If this is what happens backstage, then what other secrets is ballet hiding? Today I'm going to share with you the evolution and creation of ballet and how it came to be to what it is today. Ballet has been used in many different forms of entertainment for many generations, and many continue to enjoy its entertainment. Ballet did not originally start in France as many would like to believe. Instead, ballet was originally created in the Italian courts during the Renaissance as entertainment for the aristocrats. Most of the time, the dances in courts were done by the males, and the courtiers would often be invited to join in on the ballet. Those who would be watching would often be invited to participate. Catherine de' Medici, who was passionate about the fine arts, had created this form of entertainment, and in her marriage to King Louis II, it began its transition into France. Later on, in the 17th century in France, Louis XIV, who was passionate about ballet and had practiced the art vigorously, had created the Académie Royale de Danse. However, when the monarchy was overthrown during the French Revolution, this school became the Paris Opera Ballet. Transitions into France had begun the stages of further refining and polishing the movements. They were beginning to evolve, and ballet was becoming an opportunity for female dancers to become a part of. In 1850, Russia had developed their own perspective on ballet and had refined the art to the traditional movements, storylines, and costumes that we are familiar with. The styles developed by Russia were beginning to spread to different cultures across Europe. The creation of ballet has had an evolving history, but other factors in ballet have experienced evolution as well. One of the other aspects that has changed is the movements. Movements in ballet did not begin with the movements that we see on stage. Researching the dances originally performed in the Italian courts, the dances were instead consisted of gentle turns, slides, curtsies, and small hops. The movements then were more restrictive. However, the 5 basic positions of ballet were used and later refined to what many cultures in ballet continue to use. With ballet's transition into France, the style of ballet and the movements became more romantic and female-based, as it became more fluid and removed the earlier restrictions during the Renaissance. In the late 19th century, when ballet had transitioned into France, they had westernized the early forms and techniques, later developing a majority of the ballets that we are familiar with. The movements in ballet begins to catch our interest, but what else catches our interest? The costumes grab our interest and begins to bring the characters to life. Now, we are all inspired by the costumes on stage. However, during the 1500s to 1600s, the costumes used were very restrictive outfits that, while beautiful, but they were heavy costumes that made it hard to dance in. The costumes would often be joined with these huge masks and heavy headdresses that further restricted the movements of the dancers. In the early performances of ballet, dancers would wear these heeled shoes rather than the ballet shoes that we are used to seeing. In the transition of ballet becoming more romantic and fluid in France and Russia, they began to strip away the heavy costumes used in the aristocratic courts into the costumes that we see today. During the 1730s, a Paris opera ballet dancer, Marie Camargo, had taken the first steps in making a change in ballet shoes. She had removed the heel in her shoe and had created the soft shoe that many ballet dancers use. Making this alteration had allowed dancers to be able to make leaps and other movements that the heeled shoe had prevented. Marie Taglioni became the first dancer to dance through an entire ballet performance on pointe shoes in the ballet Le Sylphide. She began to take the first steps in modernizing the shoes that dancers would use. In the 19th century, Italian shoemakers began to further develop pointe shoes by using stiff boxes of newspaper, flour paste, and pasteboard. They would reinforce the shoes with leather. Each era would introduce a new change in the shoes, where they would later incorporate leather soles in the shoes or manufacture the shoes to become more contemporary and provide more room for the shoe to be able to stretch as the foot expands to reduce injury. The costumes used in ballet tell us something about the parts that the dancers play, but what makes the ballet all come together? The music composed plays a great role in the evolution of ballet. In ballet, we are familiar with the works of Tchaikovsky and other composers. However, we did not originally start with these musical pieces. Referring back to when ballet was first created, there was no music that was played with the dances. During this time, the belief was that the focus should be on the dancers rather than what would accompany them. In the Baroque era of ballet, this belief began to change and more began to ponder the possibilities of adding music. In 1653, Jean-Baptiste Lully had composed some music to accompany a ballet performed by Louis XIV. Lully's composition for this ballet in court had added another element of a narrative to the dances performed. The music that would accompany ballet became more prominent in the 18th century with composer Jean-Philippe Rameau and his opera ballet. The music that accompanied the ballet had attracted the attention of the royalty and court. With the evolution of ballet and the possibilities of music, it had created an opportunity for composers to create new pieces to accompany the dances. There were some composers that considered ballet compositions to be inferior to orchestra pieces. However, in Russia, Tchaikovsky had changed this mindset. Tchaikovsky had studied different ballet composers and utilized his background as a composer to develop the composition of Swan Lake. However, at that time, after he had finished the score, there were some who believed that his compositions were too complex to perform to. In addition, when the time came for the premiere in 1877, it did not initially receive a lot of success. However, after some time in 1895, after things were reorganized, the ballet was made a success as originally intended. In the approach of the 19th century, compositions for ballet were continuously being developed. One of the most notable composers at that time was Igor Stravinsky, the composer for The Firebird and The Rite of Spring. He led ballet to a new age in music. New compositions of music for ballet are still being developed. Some are taking a modern take on their compositions, while others continue to refer to the Baroque Romantic era of ballet music. Compositions for ballet are continuously evolving and improving. The world of ballet holds many secrets that have not been discovered yet. Our perspective of ballet and what goes behind the process can still be changed. We've been able to see how the dances, music, costumes, and shoes have evolved. However, there are still some hidden secrets in the past of ballet that have not been discovered yet. And there are new secrets of ballet that are being developed now that are waiting to be found.